Good afternoon everyone. I am Dr. Kanika, Assistant Professor in IT Department, IMS Noida. Today I am going to discuss this topic, constructor in Java. So what is constructor, why we are using this concept, and the next main method is, if we will not use a constructor concept, then what will happen if we are not using this concept. So that's all we are going to discuss in this class. So constructor is a block of similar to method having same name as that of class name. So one most important thing is constructor has the same name what is its class name. So constructor is on the class name, the one more important thing. So I am giving a very small example here. If suppose I am creating a class test, okay, what I am doing here, I am creating a class test and declare a constructor public void and test. So is this the right, is this the method, or is this a constructor? It is not constructor. Why? Because it is method. Method has a return type. Constructor doesn't have a return type, not even void. So this void, what it is declared because of this void? It is method, not constructor. So the basic difference between the constructor and the method is means how we recognize that is method or that is constructor. So just because of its return type, we can easily identify it is method or it is a constructor. So public and test. This is constructor. So this is the second point. Okay, it should be same name as that of class name. Now what is the second point? What we have to remember, that constructor doesn't have any return type, not even void. Okay. Now what is the third point? The third point is the only modifiers who access this constructor is public, protected, private and default. There is no static, there is no final. So these are the only modifiers who can access the constructor. Now the fourth point is how we call this constructor. Most important point, how we call this constructor. So when we creating an object, it automatically calls the constructor. Constructor has three types. One is default, second is copy constructor, and the third is parameterized constructor. So when we creating an object, like just understand this concept. If we are creating an object, like I am creating this class object, so test T equals to new test. This is what? This is what? This is a creating object. if I write this is what in the example this is written by me, so this is the argumented constructor. ठीक है. Otherwise, if suppose I am not writing this, so when we creating an object, this test, at the time of this when I write this test, it automatically calls the default constructor. Okay, it is automatically called by the compiler. So constructor, there are 4 points which you have to understand, which you should have to remember. First is constructor is a block of similar to method having same name as that of class name. Second, constructor doesn't have any return type, not even void. Third, the only modifiers public, protected, private and default access. And the fourth point is how we call this constructor. So compiler automatically call this default constructor. To understand the concept of constructor, we are creating a class of employee. There is a 2 instance variables. One is integer id, another is string name, right? We are creating public static void main. And I am creating object of this class employee. E equals to new employee. And what E dot id and E dot name. This, with the help of this object, we are accessing this object. So this is the basic example. There is no constructor, and we are supposing that constructor doesn't exist. Why I am telling this, ki just what happened without a constructor. So like we have 2 variable, integer type and string type, and now what E will do, E will create this id and the name. Okay, now we didn't give any values, so what id has the default value 0 and the name's default value will be null. If suppose we are creating another object like employee, E1 equals to new employee, so E1 dot id or E1 dot name. Okay, now what another object creates E1, it also the same parameters, same data type. So this is happening without constructor. Suppose if we will give the values to id and name with the which is called the reference variable. So अगर हम दे देते हैं, क्या id को दे दे हम 01 and name को दे दे कुछ भी like Karan. Okay, अगर हम suppose we are assigning the values to id and to the name, so what will happen now? What will happen? Both the objects having the same records. id 01, name Karan. id 01, name Karan. So is it possible where all the employees name has there is no unique name? Is it possible? No, na. So that's why the constructor concept came to just easily maintain the records of the data, or we can say to easily access the objects of the data. So what we have to do, suppose these are the strings. Now I am declaring a constructor here, parameterized constructor. Okay, so the public employee int I and string s. Okay, and this dot I equals to id, this dot name equals to name. This is the parameterized constructor where they have parameters. Right now I'm creating the void, the public static void main and I am creating objects here, employee E equals to new employee. Now I am giving the values 0, 1 and Ashu. Passing the values in the E. Now I am creating another object E1 equals to new employee 0, 2 and Karan. Okay, now you can see in the previous where I have to return this E dot id, E dot name, E dot E1 dot id, E1 dot name. So this is creating my complexity of a program. This is increasing the line of code, so which is not good in a good programming, so this should not be happen. So just because of this constructor, this method, this line of code will eliminate. So now what I have to do, like you can easily see the two object is creating E and another is E1. E1 is what passing 0, 1 and Ashu. So E1 ID equals to 0, 1 and the name which is Ashu. And in the second thing, E1 equals to 0, 2 records and ID is 0, 2 data and the name is Karan. And now this ID, this 0, 1 goes to ID, or this dot ID, this dot I is the integer type. Now Ashu will go to the name and this is the same as a string name. And now when the second object is called, the IDs go to the this dot ID equals to ID and name will go to the this dot name equals to name. So you can easily see, just because of the constructor we can easily manage our objects, we can easily manage our records, and we eliminate the line of codes we are removing. So without constructor I have to write, I have 1000 records, then without constructor I have to write 2000 records, which is not good. So with the help of this constructor, if I have 1000 records, so I just write the simply 1000 lines. So this is the basic functionalities of construct. And one more thing, what this is doing here, this is the current object reference. Okay, now thank you. I hope you understand the concept of constructor. Thank you.